The message arrived on Earth during a peaceful Tuesday morning. The transmission came from deep space, surprising the military command center. Admiral Park watched the screen with wide eyes as strange beings introduced themselves. They called themselves Valorans. Admiral Park had seen many things in his 40 years of service, but nothing like this. The Valorans looked almost human-shaped, but their skin glowed and changed colors as they spoke. They stood taller than humans, with graceful movements that reminded Park of dancers. "They need our help," Lieutenant Kim said quietly beside him. She pointed to the part of the message where the Valorans described their flight from something called the Galactic Council. The aliens had traveled through 12 star systems to reach Earth. They explained that they were running from an organization that controlled many planets and species. This Galactic Council demanded that all intelligent life follow their rules and give up their freedom. The Valorans had refused. "We seek only peace and a place to live," the Valoran speaker said in the message. "We offer our knowledge in return for your protection." When the transmission ended, Admiral Park ordered an emergency meeting. Within hours, Earth's leaders gathered to discuss what to do about the alien visitors. "We cannot fight a galactic empire," General Lee said, his face serious. "If these Valorans are telling the truth, we would be facing an enemy with technology far beyond our own." Others agreed with him. Earth had only recently started sending small ships to Mars and the Moon. They were not ready for war with advanced aliens. President Ba listened to everyone before speaking. "But we cannot turn away those who need our aid," she said firmly. "Not when they've shown us nothing but honesty and respect by coming to us openly." After days of debate, Earth decided to help the Valorans. The aliens landed their ships in a special area prepared for them. People gathered to watch as the Valorans stepped onto Earth for the first time. Admiral Park met with the Valoran leader, a tall being whose skin shimmered with blue and green lights. They spoke through special devices that translated their words. "My people thank you," the Valoran said. "We will share all we know with humanity." True to their word, the Valorans began teaching humans about their technology. They showed engineers how to build better engines for spaceships. They shared knowledge about growing food in space and making air systems that could work for years without failing. Within 6 months, humans and Valorans were working side by side. The first place where they lived together was built on Mars. Humans learned that Valorans preferred the cooler temperatures and lower gravity of the red planet. Admiral Park visited the Mars settlement often. He watched humans and Valorans building homes, laboratories, and gardens together. Children from both species played games in the special domes that protected everyone from the harsh Martian environment. Back on Earth, military leaders worked with Valoran designers to create new ships. These would be the first real warships humans had ever built for space. A Valoran named Tai led the design team. Tai was younger than most Valorans, his skin often flashing with bright yellows and oranges when he had new ideas. He worked closely with Admiral Park on the biggest ship, called the EFS Defender. "This will be the finest vessel in your fleet," Todd told Admiral Park as they stood in the massive building where the ship was being assembled. "The hull material is stronger than anything Earth has created before." Admiral Park nodded, looking at the metal skeleton that would become their flagship. Workers moved around it, guided by both human and Valoran engineers. "We hope these vessels never see combat," Ta said more quietly, his skin turning a deep purple color that Park had learned meant worry. "But the Council does not forget those who defy them." Admiral Park put his hand on Ta's shoulder. "If they come, we'll be ready." Over the next 2 years, more Valorans arrived in small ships that had escaped the Council. Each brought stories of other worlds being forced to obey Council rules or face destruction. Each story made Earth work harder to prepare. The Alliance changed Earth in many ways. Valoran technology helped solve problems like pollution and energy shortages. Human creativity inspired Valorans to try new approaches to old challenges. Together, they accomplished in 3 years what might have taken humanity decades alone. The first fleet of Earth warships was completed ahead of schedule. Admiral Park stood proudly at the ceremony to launch them. 5 massive ships floated in the sky above the ocean, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. President Ba gave a speech about friendship and cooperation between species. When she finished, Valoran children released thousands of glowing insects that formed beautiful patterns in the air. Humans gasped and applauded at the display. No one knew that far away, Council sensors had detected unusual energy signatures from Earth's solar system. No one knew that Council leaders were already discussing how to deal with the escaped Valorans and the primitive species that had dared to help them. For now, Earth and the Valorans celebrated their new alliance, unaware that they were being watched from 12 star systems away. 3 peaceful years passed since the Valorans came to Earth. People got used to seeing the tall aliens with their color-changing skin in cities and towns. On Mars, humans and Valorans built beautiful dome cities together. Children from both species went to the same schools. Earth changed quickly during these years. Spaceships that once took months to reach Mars now made the trip in days. Hospitals used Valoran medicine to cure diseases that had troubled humans for centuries. Farms grew more food with less water thanks to alien farming methods. Admiral Park watched all this progress with pride. The decision to help the Valorans had been right. He often visited the shipyards where new vessels were being built. 20 warships now protected Earth, with more under construction. "Our defense fleet is strong enough to handle most threats," Ta told him during one visit. The Valoran engineer's skin glowed with soft blue light, showing his calm confidence. They were standing on a viewing platform, watching workers attach the main weapons to a new cruiser. Below them, human and Valoran technicians worked side by side. "Let's hope we never need to test that theory," Admiral Park replied. That same evening, while Admiral Park was having dinner with his family, his communication device buzzed. The message was simple: return to headquarters immediately. When he arrived, the command center was already full. Military leaders and government officials stood in tense groups, talking in low voices. On the main screen was a paused image of an alien unlike any Valoran. This creature had 6 eyes arranged in a circle on its face. "What's happening?" Park asked General Lee. "The Galactic Council found us," Lee said grimly. "This message came through the Deep Space Network an hour ago." President Ba nodded to the communications officer, who started the recording. The 6-eyed alien spoke in a flat, cold voice that the translation computer changed to human language. "To the primitive species designated humans, we are the Galactic Council. We have detected that you are harboring fugitives of the species Valoran. Surrender the fugitive species immediately, or face the consequences of harboring enemies of galactic order. You have 48 Earth hours to comply." Each of the creature's 6 eyes blinked in sequence as it spoke, creating an unsettling effect. The room erupted in argument after the message ended. Some officials wanted to send the Valorans away to save Earth. Others refused to abandon their allies. "We need to negotiate," President Ba said, raising her voice above the others. "Commander June, prepare a response. Make it clear we wish for peaceful discussion." Commander June, Earth's top diplomat, worked through the night with his team. They crafted a careful message explaining that the Valorans were welcome guests on Earth and inviting Council representatives to visit and discuss the situation. The Council's answer came just 6 hours later. It was only 5 words. "Negotiation is not an option." Intelligence Officer Song rushed into the command center the next morning, her face pale with worry. "Madam President, they're mobilizing their fleet," she reported. "We're detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of our solar system. Based on Valoran information, we believe it's at least 50 warships." President Ba looked at Admiral Park. "How many ships can we deploy?" 23, Madam President, plus 5 Valoran vessels." Everyone in the room knew what that meant. They were outnumbered at least 2 to 1, and Council technology was likely more advanced. "Prepare all ships for defense," the President ordered, "and start evacuating the Valoran settlements. Maybe if we show we're separating from them." "With respect, Madam President," Park interrupted, The Valorans are our allies. We can't abandon them now. Val looked tired, but nodded. You're right. We stand together. 3 days later, the Council Armada entered the inner solar system. From orbit, they looked like a swarm of metal insects approaching Earth. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the HFY Defender, Earth's largest warship. All ships in defensive positions, he ordered. Priority is protecting civilian areas on Earth, Mars, and the Moon. Earth's ships formed a protective line between the approaching Armada and the populated planets. The 5 Valoran vessels joined them, their sleek shapes distinct from the bulkier human designs. They're sending a message, Admiral, Lieutenant Kim reported from her communication station. On screen, Park ordered. The 6-eyed council representative appeared again. Your time is up. Surrender all Valorans immediately. We are willing to discuss this peacefully, Admiral Park responded. There is no need for conflict. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. Primitive species always say this. Then you learn. The transmission cut off abruptly. Lieutenant Kim's console began beeping urgently. She checked the readings, confusion spreading across her face. Admiral, they're bypassing our military installations, she reported, her voice rising with alarm. Their ships are heading directly for the Valoran settlements. First targets appear to be Mars and the Moon. Admiral Park stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The Council ships were indeed ignoring Earth's military vessels and heading straight for where most Valorans lived. Intercept them. All ships move to protect those settlements, he ordered. But it was too late. Before Earth's fleet could reposition, the Council ships opened fire. Not on Earth's military, not on human cities. Their weapons targeted only the places where Valorans lived. The first explosions on Mars were visible from Earth as bright flashes of light. Millions of people watched in horror as the domed cities they had built together began to burn. This isn't about politics, Admiral Park whispered as he watched the destruction unfold. This isn't about territory or rules. It's extermination. Lieutenant Kim finished, tears in her eyes. The Valoran genocide had begun. The Council ships cut through space with frightening speed. Their weapons glowed bright blue before firing, a color that humans would remember with fear for generations to come. Across the solar system, Valoran settlements burned as powerful antimatter beams sliced through protective shields like they were made of paper. On the bridge of the HFY Defender, Admiral Park handed command to Captain Han. The Admiral needed to coordinate Earth's entire defense from the lunar base, which meant Captain Han would lead the flagship into battle. Protect the Mars settlement at all costs, Admiral Park said before departing. That's where most of the Valoran children are. Captain Han nodded firmly. He was younger than most captains, only 35, but had proven himself in training exercises. Now he would face real combat for the first time. Setting course for Mars, the navigator announced as Admiral Park's shuttle departed. The Defender was Earth's largest warship, nearly a kilometer long with weapons designed by Valoran engineers. Its shields were supposed to withstand almost any attack. Captain Han hoped this would be enough as he watched the tactical display, showing dozens of Council ships already surrounding Mars. Full speed, he ordered. Put us between the Council fleet and the main settlement. The Defender's engines flared bright as the massive ship accelerated toward Mars. 2 smaller Earth vessels, the Courage and the Swift, followed close behind. On Mars, panic spread through the largest Valoran settlement. Over 20,000 Valorans lived under the massive dome, alongside 5,000 humans who had chosen to make Mars their home. Now they watched in terror as Council ships darkened the sky above them. Elder J, the oldest and most respected Valoran on Mars, called for calm as evacuation ships prepared to launch. His skin, once brightly colored, had faded to pale blue with age. Take the children first, he instructed as families rushed toward the spaceport. Hurry, but do not push. We must help each other. The first explosions rocked the dome as Council ships began their attack. Parts of the protective shield failed, and air began to escape into the thin Martian atmosphere. Emergency systems activated, sealing off different sections of the city to prevent everyone from dying at once. Above Mars, the Defender arrived with its escort ships. Captain Han could see the Council vessels firing on the defenseless settlement. His hands tightened on the armrests of his command chair. "Open a channel to all Council ships," he ordered. Lieutenant Kim worked quickly at her station. "Channel open, Captain." Captain Han stood tall as he spoke. "This is Captain Han of Earth Alliance. The targets you are firing upon contain civilians, including children. Stand down immediately." For a moment, the Council ships paused their attack. Then a response came through, the six-eyed alien's voice cold and mechanical. "The Valorans violated Council law. Their elimination is required. Interference will result in your elimination as well." "They're charging weapons," the sensor officer shouted. "Shields at maximum," Captain Han ordered. "Return fire." The space around Mars lit up with energy beams and explosions. The Defender's advanced weapons struck a Council ship directly, causing it to break apart in a flash of light. Moments later, a second Council vessel exploded after combined fire from the Courage and Swift hit its engine section. But there were too many enemy ships. 20 Council vessels focused their fire on the Defender, their blue beams converging on the Earth ship from all directions. The shields glowed brightly as they tried to absorb the energy. "Shields at 60%, the engineering officer reported. "We can't take much more of this." Captain Han gripped the tactical display, looking for a weakness. "Focus fire on the lead vessel, if we can break their formation." A massive impact cut him off, throwing crew members from their stations. Emergency lights flashed as smoke filled the bridge. "Direct hit to our main power core," someone shouted through the confusion. "Shields failing." Captain Han helped Lieutenant Kim back to her feet. "Get everyone to the escape pods," he ordered quietly. "The ship is lost." She stared at him in shock. "Captain, you need to come too." "I'll make sure everyone gets off," he promised. "Now go." On the surface of Mars, Elder J watched as the Defender broke apart in orbit. Pieces of the mighty ship burned through the atmosphere, creating streaks of light across the sky. He knew what this meant. Help was not coming. Council landing ships were already touching down outside the damaged dome. Troops in black armor marched toward the settlement, weapons ready. Jay gathered the remaining Valoran leaders in the central communication center. Most of their people were trapped, unable to evacuate in time. He activated the emergency broadcast system that would send their message to Earth and any ships still fighting. His skin turned a deep purple, the color of sorrow, as he spoke. "People of Earth, this is Elder J. The Council forces have landed. We know what comes next." His voice remained steady despite his fear. "Remember us not as victims, but as friends who believed in humanity's potential. We do not regret coming to your world, even now." The other Valoran leaders stood with him, their skin colors shifting in unity to the same purple shade. Outside, they could hear the Council troops breaking through the final barriers. "To any Valorans who escaped," Jay continued, "keep our culture alive. And to our human friends." The door to the communication center burst open. Council soldiers entered, weapons pointed at the Valoran leaders. Earth's monitoring stations captured everything that happened next. The execution of Jai and the others was broadcast across the solar system, a deliberate message to anyone who would defy the Council. Across the solar system, the massacre continued for hours. Smaller settlements on the Moon, on asteroids, and in space stations were systematically destroyed. Earth's defensive fleet fought bravely, but was overwhelmed by superior numbers and technology. When the fighting finally stopped, 21 Earth ships had been destroyed. Only 3 human vessels remained. A small destroyer called the Vengeance, a science vessel repurposed for combat named the Discovery, and a medical ship, the Mercy. With them was one damaged Valoran transport, its engines barely functioning. The ship had managed to escape Mars before the Council landed, carrying just over 300 Valorans, mostly children and their teachers. Among them was Engineer Ta, his skin gray with grief. He had been off-world testing new engine designs when the attack began. Now, as the four ships limped away from the solar system, he held a small data device tightly in his hand. "What is that?" asked the captain of the Vengeance when she noticed Ta staring at the device. "The future," Tay replied simply. "Plans I've been working on. Weapons the Council won't expect, if your people are willing to build them." His skin flickered briefly with red, the color of resolve, of vengeance. The captain nodded slowly, understanding in her eyes. The small fleet jumped to faster than light speed, disappearing from sensors. The Council believed their message had been delivered, their task complete. They did not search too hard for the escaped ships. It would be their greatest mistake. 6 months passed since the terrible day when the Council attacked. On Earth, life seemed to return to normal. Council observers walked the streets of major cities, watching humans with their 6 eyes. They reported back to their leaders that humans had learned their lesson. Earth had accepted its place in the galactic order. The observers saw exactly what humans wanted them to see. In public, people bowed their heads when Council ships flew overhead. Government officials spoke politely to Council representatives. Earth's remaining warships stayed in their docks, apparently unused. But deep in space, hidden from watching eyes, Earth was preparing. Asteroid Belt Base Alpha looked like an ordinary mining operation from the outside. Council patrols passed it regularly without suspicion. Inside the hollowed-out asteroid, however, the largest shipyard in human history operated day and night. Admiral Park stood on a viewing platform, watching workers swarm over the skeleton of a new type of warship. Unlike the bulky vessels Earth had built before, this ship was sleek and dark, designed to be nearly invisible against the blackness of space. "How many are complete?" he asked the base commander beside him. 15 attack ships and 5 heavy cruisers, the commander replied. 7 more will be ready next month. Admiral Park nodded with satisfaction. Similar work was happening in hidden bases across the solar system, on the far side of the moon, beneath the clouds of Venus, and in the moons of Jupiter. Everywhere humans could hide from Council eyes, they built and prepared. These new ships used Valoran technology, but were designed with human military thinking. The Valorans had been peaceful explorers. Humans were warriors with thousands of years of battle experience. The combination created something the galaxy had never seen before. In a special laboratory deep within the asteroid, Engineer Ta worked tirelessly. The Valoran was one of few survivors of his species, saved from Mars minutes before the Council landed. His skin, once vivid with changing colors, now stayed mostly gray, the color of focused determination. "The new weapon is ready for testing," Ta told Admiral Park when he visited the lab. "It targets the specific frequency of Council shield systems." Ta pointed to a small device on the table. "My people were peaceful," he said quietly. "But we were not blind to our oppressors' vulnerabilities. The Council believes their shields are perfect. They are not." Admiral Park picked up the device. It seemed too small to change the course of a war, but he trusted Ta's brilliance. "How many can we produce?" "Enough for every ship," Ta answered. "And the larger version is almost ready." 1 month later, Admiral Park called all ship captains to Asteroid Base Alpha. 27 men and women gathered in the base's command center. Many were young, rapidly promoted after losing their superior officers in the massacre. All carried the same hard look in their eyes, the look of people who had seen too much death. Admiral Park stood before a star map showing Council territory. "For 6 months, we have prepared while pretending to submit," he began. "The Council believes we are broken. They think we have forgotten our friends. They are wrong." He touched the map, highlighting a distant point of light. "This is Outpost Sigma 9, a Council supply depot. It's lightly defended because they don't expect any threats in this region. Captain Min will lead our first strike there with 3 stealth cruisers." A woman stepped forward. Captain Min was in her 30s, with a scar across her cheek from the Battle of Mars. She had commanded the Vengeance during its escape and was one of the most experienced officers left. "My ships will leave tonight," she said. "The new stealth systems should keep us undetected until we're right on top of them." Admiral Park nodded. "After Captain Min's attack, we'll launch strikes at these 7 locations simultaneously." He pointed to points across the map. "Remember, this is not a war of conquest. This is Operation Nemesis, justice for our fallen allies." He looked at each captain in turn. "May the spirits of our Valoran allies guide our hands." 3 days later, Captain Min's stealth cruiser approached Outpost Sigma 9. The ship, renamed Vengeance after her previous command, moved silently through space. Its special hull absorbed sensor scans instead of reflecting them. 2 sister ships, Shadow and Night, flanked it in tight formation. On the Vengeance's bridge, Captain Min watched the Council outpost grow larger on the view screen. The station was a massive ring with supply ships docked around its perimeter. "No indication they've detected us," reported her sensor officer. "We're completely invisible to their systems." Min smiled grimly. "Prepare missile tubes 1 through 4. Target their communication array first, then power systems." The Council station grew larger in the view screen. Still no alarms, no defending ships launching. They had achieved complete surprise. Fire. The Vengeance launched 4 missiles that streaked toward the station. Moments later, Shadow and Night fired as well. The missiles carried TA's special devices, which allowed them to pass through the station's shields as if they weren't there. The communication array exploded silently in the vacuum of space. Before the station could respond, 3 more explosions took out its power core. Emergency systems came online, but by then the Earth ships were already hitting other targets. Within 20 minutes, the supply depot was crippled. Council ships docked at the station tried to respond, but found themselves targeted with precise weapon strikes to their engine sections. None managed to pursue as the Earth vessels vanished back into the darkness of space. Similar attacks happened across Council territory that week. Earth ships appeared from nowhere, struck with devastating precision, and disappeared before effective responses could be organized. After a successful strike on a Council communication hub, Lieutenant Kim stood with Captain Min on the Vengeance's bridge, watching recordings of confused Council commanders trying to coordinate their defenses. "They expected us to fight like Valorans," Lieutenant Kim observed. "Look at how they position their ships. They're defending against frontal assaults, formal engagements." Captain Min nodded. "They don't understand human warfare. We've spent our history fighting each other. We know about ambushes, guerrilla tactics, striking where the enemy is weakest." The lieutenant pointed to a particular recording of a 6-eyed Council commander gesturing frantically. "They're starting to fear us." "Good," Captain Min replied. "They should." Back at Asteroid Base Alpha, Admiral Park received reports of each successful mission. 23 strikes, 23 victories. No Earth ships lost yet. The Council was scrambling to respond to an enemy they couldn't see or predict. Tai entered the command center with news about his largest project. "The main weapon is ready," he said, his skin flickering with rare flashes of bright gold. Pride in his work. "It can be installed on the carrier ship within 2 weeks." Admiral Park studied the plans. This wasn't just a shield-penetrating missile. This was something that could change the balance of power permanently. "Begin installation immediately," he ordered. "The Council still thinks these are isolated attacks. They don't realize yet that we're preparing for the real battle." Tay's skin darkened briefly. "For my people," he said softly. Admiral Park put his hand on the Valoran's shoulder. "For all of us." After months of small attacks that confused and weakened the Council, Admiral Park knew it was time for the final battle. Intelligence reports showed that the Council had gathered most of their regional fleet at Proxima Centauri, the closest star system to Earth. They were preparing a massive force to crush the human resistance once and for all. "They still think we're just causing trouble," Admiral Park told his officers. "They don't understand we're fighting for our survival." Earth's hidden shipyards had completed 37 warships. Each carried weapons designed by TAA that could penetrate Council shields. The flagship, named EFS Retribution, carried something even more powerful, a device that could disable multiple Council ships at once. The night before the battle, Admiral Park couldn't sleep. He walked through the Retribution, speaking with crew members preparing for combat. Many were young, barely out of training. Others were veterans who had survived the massacre 6 months earlier. All understood what was at stake. In the ship's memorial hall, Park paused before a wall listing the names of every human and Valoran killed by the Council. The list filled the entire wall from floor to ceiling in tiny writing. He placed his hand on the cool metal surface and made a silent promise. At dawn, Earth's fleet gathered at the jump point. The ships formed a perfect arrow shape, with the Retribution at its tip. Admiral Park stood on the bridge, looking at the faces of his crew. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for all people who wish to live free from Council rule, he said. Remember those we lost. Remember why we fight. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed all at once. The stars blurred around them as they traveled the short distance to Proxima Centauri. When they arrived, the Council fleet was waiting. 60 warships arranged in a defensive formation around their command station. For a moment, both sides seemed frozen in surprise. Admiral Park broke the silence, sending a message to all Council ships. This is Admiral Park of Earth Alliance. You slaughtered our allies. Now face our judgment. The Council commander's six-eyed face appeared on the main screen. Primitive species, it hissed. You have violated Council law for the last time. The battle began with a flash of light as hundreds of weapons fired at once. Council ships launched waves of energy toward Earth's fleet, but the humans had learned from the massacre. Their ships split apart, moving in patterns that confused Council targeting systems. Captain Min led a group of stealth cruisers around the edge of the battlefield. While the main fleets battled, her ships slipped behind the Council formation. All ships, target their engines on my mark, she ordered. 3, 2, 1, fire. 20 Council ships suddenly lost power as precision strikes disabled their engine cores. The Earth fleet pressed the advantage, focusing fire on the now helpless vessels. On the Retribution, Admiral Park watched the battle unfold. Earth was winning, but at a cost. 5 human ships had already been destroyed. It's time, he told Ta, who stood next to him monitoring the battle. Prepare the main weapon. Tay's fingers moved quickly over the control panel. The device he had designed took up 3 decks of the Retribution. It generated a specific frequency that interfered with the Council's shield technology. Ready, Admiral, Ta said, his skin flashing with determination. Activate. A pulse of invisible energy spread out from the Retribution. Across the battlefield, Council ships suddenly lost their shields. Their captains panicked, not understanding what had happened. All ships, attack now, Admiral Park ordered. Earth's fleet fired everything they had. Council ships began exploding one after another, unable to defend themselves. Their formation broke apart as captains tried to escape. The battle raged for 14 hours as Council reinforcements arrived, only to face the same shield-disrupting technology. When the fighting finally stopped, the Council fleet was destroyed. Only their command station remained, surrounded by Earth warships. Admiral Park led the boarding party himself. They moved through the station's corridors, capturing Council personnel who surrendered without much resistance. In the main control room, they found the regional commander, a high-ranking Council official whose 6 eyes widened in fear as humans entered. Take him to the Retribution, Admiral Park ordered. He will answer for the massacre. 1 year later, Earth celebrated Victory Day. The Galactic Council had been forced to sign a peace treaty recognizing humanity as an independent power. Council ships were banned from entering Earth's solar system without permission. In orbit above Earth, a new space academy had been built. At its center stood a massive memorial to the slaughtered Valorans, a crystal spire containing soil from Mars and the other places where Valorans had died. At night, the memorial glowed with a soft light visible from the planet below. The surviving Valorans, fewer than 1,000 individuals, were given full citizenship on Earth. They were honored guests at every public event, their color-changing skin standing out in human crowds. Engineer Ta became Minister of Interspecies Affairs in Earth's government. He worked with human leaders to create what became known as the Valoran Doctrine, Earth's promise to protect weaker species from Council aggression. 2 years after the Battle of Proxima Centauri, Earth launched a special mission. 3 colony ships, escorted by 5 warships including the Retribution, set out for a distant star system. Their goal: to establish a new homeworld for the Valoran people. Admiral Park stood on the observation deck of the Retribution with Tai as they approached the chosen planet. It was beautiful, blue oceans, green continents, and white clouds swirling in its atmosphere. Scans showed it was perfect for Valoran biology. "Your people taught us to reach for the stars," Park said quietly as they watched the planet grow larger in the view screen. "We taught the Council that some lines should never be crossed." Tay's skin shimmered with bright blue, the Valoran color of hope and new beginnings. "Perhaps someday there will be peace between all species," he said. "Someday," Admiral Park agreed, thinking of all they had lost and gained. But first, justice. Below them, the colony ships began their descent to the planet's surface. The first Valorans would walk on their new homeworld by nightfall. Their children would grow up under strange stars, but they would grow up free. Earth had entered the galactic community through fire and blood, but it had emerged stronger. Never again would humans stand by while the innocent were slaughtered. Never again would the Council's word be law across the stars. The universe had changed forever.